Hare Krishna. In the previous sessions, we have discussed elaborately about the description of Bhumandala, different divisions, subdivisions, sub-subdivisions, etc., and the kind of people living there, and they're offering up prayers to the Supreme Lord, etc. We have seen from chapter 1 and then chapter 16 to chapter 20 as well. We have also seen from Bhugala Varnanam about few more details about the Bhumandala as well, Bharata Varsha and Bharatakanda, etc., so that we get more clarity on the structure and shape of the Bhumandala of Jambudipa, of Bharatakanda, Bharata Varsha, etc. So that is what we have done till now, and today we'll be discussing from the remaining chapters of the Bhagavatam Canto 5, the 14 planetary systems, the vertical structure of the universe. So in the 3D universe, since Bhumandala was like this, so all the divisions, subdivisions across the Bhumandala were said as the horizontal structure of the universe, and 14 planetary systems are like this, vertically going upward. So that is called as vertical structure of the universe. So one out of the 14 was discussed, that was about Bhumandala, and now we will discuss about the remaining 13 planetary systems. So in this whole week, today and Wednesday and Friday, we'll be discussing from the below chapters. So all the way starting from 21 all the way up to 26. So 21, 22 talks about sun, moon, stars, and other planets which are situated in Bhuvarloka and Svargaloka. And then chapter 23 talks about the description of the Shishimara planetary systems, that is basically describing Dhruvaloka and also the upper planetary systems, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka. So we'll briefly discuss about them in chapter 23. And 24, 25 chapters describe the lower planetary systems, such as, of course, Bilaswarga are the lower 7 planetary systems, and the in-between planetary system, that is Bhuvarloka, that is also described in chapter 24. And then in chapter 25, we'll also discuss about Lord Shesha, who was holding the entire Bhumandala. More details about Shesha we will discuss in chapter 25. And then in chapter 26, we will discuss about the highest planetary systems, which are located just below Patalaloka and within the Bhumandala itself. So these are the few just outline of what we are going to discuss in this part 3 in this entire week. So we started with this example. Our universe is like a lotus stemming out of the water pond, and this universal shell, Bhumandala, and stem and flower indicate the remaining planetary systems, etc. So now we have discussed sufficiently about the Bhumandala, and the remaining portion we will discuss today. So this was our universe, which we discussed till now, different divisions of the Bhumandala. This is Aloka Varsha, Loka mountain, Swarna Bhumi, and 7 islands and 7 oceans. The innermost island was Jambudipa. Within that 9 Varshas, and one of them was Bharata Varsha. Within that 9 islands, one of them was Bharatakanda. So all that we have discussed. And now the remaining portion of the universe will begin to describe. Okay, before beginning today's discussion, starting with sun, etc. So would like to know if some devotees had any queries from the previous discussion. In the last class we had a little bit late. I mean, because starting time we had some trouble, so we went a little ahead of our regular time. Any queries based on the previous class discussion?
Krishna Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, just to give a little a recap, if you can explain to us about the eclipses that actually is formed because of the sun's rotation and how that needs to be understood. Last week we just discussed a little bit on that.
No, we did not discuss anything about eclipse, and it is
no,
too early to discuss about eclipse today.
Okay. Fine, Prabhuji. Then it's okay. Thank you.
Because eclipse is caused by sun, moon, and Rahu Ketu, and we have not touched upon Rahu, Ketu,
Yeah.
sun, and moon also. Then what is the point in discussing eclipse?
Yeah, I was thinking about, I'm sorry, I mistook it for the day and night rotation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I just want to understand that ice cube you have shown
Yes.
bottom of the Bharata Khanda, which
Ice
is
column.
ice column. Sorry, ice column. So that ice column is resting on what? Like where it is resting place of that ice column.
See, there is ice column. Above that ice column, we have Bharatkhanda, the earth globe. The ice column is stemming from the saltwater ocean, which is surrounding Garbhodaka, the Jambudvipa.
Okay.
That saltwater ocean which is surrounding Jambudvipa, from that saltwater ocean comes up one ice cube upon which the Bharatkhanda is resting.
Okay. So that is from that saltwater ocean. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that means that can be like a some mountain kind of thing which is floating on the saltwater ocean.
Yes. Yeah, you can say like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, bro. Okay. If there are no more queries, we'll move on. So the sun is situated vertically. As you see in the universe, 3D universe, as you look from top to bottom, it is situated exactly in the middle of the universe. The total inner diameter of the universe is around 500 million yojanas. From the upper layer of the universe, the sun is 250 million yojanas, and from the lower layer of the universal shell, it is another 250 million yojanas. It is situated exactly in the middle of the universe and also in the middle of Antariksha or Bhuvarloka, which spreads to a width of 0.2 million yojanas or 2 lakh yojanas. So we have discussed about Bhumandala in the previous section. If this is Bhumandala, and upon Bhumandala we have Bhuvarloka. After Bhuloka we have Bhuvarloka, and the Bhuloka width we have seen 1 lakh yojanas, and now Bhuvarloka width is about 2 lakh yojanas. And exactly in the middle of the Bhuvarloka is the location of sun. That means from Bhuloka, sun is located right of 1 lakh yojanas. So that is what it is. The sun, who is the master of heat, heats up and lights up the 3 worlds by its light. The Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, and Swargaloka will get light from sun. Sun gives light to not only for us, but he also gives light to the entire Bhumandala and also to the entire Bhuvarloka and also to the Swargaloka, all the way up to pole star, the sunlight spreads. And kindly understand this, we'll discuss about it in the future also. There is no need of sunlight for Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, which are located above Dhruvaloka. Sunlight is only required for 3 planetary systems: Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, and Swargaloka. That's why it is called 3 Lokim. And there are various names that are given to sun. He is called as Martanda, because the sun had entered into a dead universe, Mruta Anda or Mruta Brahmanda, and gave life to the universe. That's why it's called as Martanda. One meaning of sun is he had come into the dead universe and gave life to it. Other meaning of the Martanda is he is the one who gives intense heat to the entire universe. Of course, the 3 planetary systems. That's why it's called Martanda. It is also called as Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha means the combination of all the living entities that are living in the entire universe is called Hiranyagarbha. And specifically, the life of all the living entities is depend upon the presence of sun. If there is no sun, we can't live. Without sun or without sunlight or without the warmth given by sun, we can't live any longer. Maybe a few days, few weeks, not more than that. That's why he is called as Hiranyagarbha, because it is he who is sustaining the living force in this material universe. That's why he is called as Hiranyagarbha. सूर्येन हि विभाजयते दिशा कम द्युर्महि बिदा स्वर्गापवर्गो नरक रसौकांक्षि च सर्वश. Whatever distinctions we find or we present in our universe, all the distinctions are due to sun. Everything is in relation to sun. Because of sun, we say something is Bhuloka, something is Bhurloka, something is Swargaloka, something is Maharloka, Janloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, and something is Bilaswarga, etc. etc. All these distinctions among all them, Suryani Vibhajayate Disha. The 8 directions get their names because of sun. Kam, ether also gets its name because of sun. Dhyu, Swarga. Mahi, Bhuloka. Bida, the in-between area, Bhurloka. Swarga, Apavarga, something called as Swarga, something is called Apavarga, and something is called Naraka, something is called Rasokamshi. Matlab, the 7 lower planetary systems, Bilaswargas. All of them get their identity only in relation to sun. It is by sun, everyone gets their identity. So it is like that. Devatiryan Manushyanam Sarisrupa Savirudanam Sarva Jiva Nikayanam Surya Atma Drik Ishvara. The sun is considered to be the life of all the living entities, such as devatas, animals, human beings, the reptiles, and plants. Every living entity has their existence based on sun. If there is no sun, there will be no existence. That's why it's called as Sarva Jiva Nikayanam Surya Atma. Surya is Atma of all the living entities. And also Surya is Drug Ishvara, is the present deity of our eyes. Our eyes have no work to do if there is no sun or sunlight. It is only because of sunlight our eyes have some function to perform, to see objects in front of us. So it is like that. And now the sun travels in his chariot. So there is a nice description about chariot of sun god. So the chariot of sun god has only one wheel, which is connected to an axle. So we have also discussed in the beginning that Privrat Maharaj had a mystic chariot which also had only one wheel. So his chariot had only one wheel because sun's chariot also had one wheel. So how does it exist? So that wheel is connected to an axle. The one side of the axle is fixed to the lower portion of Meru. At the base of Meru, one side of the axle is connected. On the other side of the axle is connected to the wheel, and the wheel rests upon Manasottara mountain. The wheel continuously revolves in a circular motion just above Manasottara mountain. And the length of this axle is 15.75 million yojanas. If you remember previously while describing the 7 islands, the 7 Dvipas of Bhumandala, the 7th Dvipa known as Pushkara Dvipa, exactly in the middle it has Manasottara mountain. From the center of Meru to the center of Manasottara mountain was 15.75 million yojanas. That was the radius of circular Manasottara mountain. So the axle length is also of same size. So being connected to this axle, which in turn once it connected to the base of Mount Meru, continuously rotates on top of Manasottara mountain, just like the wheel of an oil pressing machine. Just like an oil pressing machine continuously revolves around its center pole, similarly the chariot of sun revolves around Mount Meru. So it is like this. The entire picture is like this. Here is our Bhumandala. Here is Manasottara mountain. Here is Mount Meru. Here is Bharatakanda. And here is Dhruvaloka, the pole star. The chariot wheel is situated just above Manasottara mountain. And this chariot wheel is connected to an axle. The other side of the axle is connected to the base of Mount Meru. So here this is connected to the base of Mount Meru, and this side it is connected here. And the chariot of the sun god is located here. And being connected to this wheel, it revolves continuously in the clockwise direction. And the first axle is connected to a second axle whose length is 1/4 of the first axle. So one side of the second axle is connected to pole star Dhruvaloka. The other side of the second axle is connected to the first axle in order to control the motion of this sun's chariot. So the second axle is connected to the first axle and to the Dhruvaloka. and its length is 1/4 of the first axle. 15.75 divided by 4, it is 3.9375 million yojanas. So, and this joint is exactly above saltwater ocean. Here you remember, here is Jambudvipa surrounding Mount Meru, and surrounding Jambudvipa is saltwater ocean. In that saltwater ocean, wherever saltwater ocean is, just above that, the joint is made. So it is like that. So the chariot of sun is compared to the traditional oil pressing machine. Here you can see, this is like Mount Meru. Whatever the shape of Mount Meru, at the base it is small. As you go upward, it is bigger. And here is Dhruvaloka. So it is like this. Everything you can see here. This is like Mount Meru. This is like Dhruvaloka. And this is the base of Mount Meru. Axle is connected. First axle is connected. Here the chariot horses are there. And this is the second axle. One side Dhruvaloka, other side connected to the first axle. This is the traditional oil pressing machine. And this is our recent oil pressing machine, the mechanized, motorized oil pressing machine. So here it is like this. This is Meru, this is Polestar, etc., etc. According to Sri Swami, he says, the chariot rotates at an height of 50,000 yojanas in reference to the peak of Mount Meru and a surface made flat by the wind. So this is Mansutar mountain, whose height is 10,000 yojanas, and from the tip of Mansutar mountain, the chariot wheel of sun's chariot rotates at a height of 50,000 yojanas, and there is a path made up of wind. Sun's chariot does not touch the Bhumandala. It is traveling in the ether only, but a path made up of wind. And then the sun, the personality, sun himself situated in an enclosure. This is the enclosure, and sun is seated here. And that enclosure is located at a height of 40,000 yojanas above the base of the wheel. So from the base of the wheel to the place where sun is seated, so that is about another 40,000 yojanas. So in total, we have 10,000 plus 50,000 plus 40,000. From Pushkar Dvipa, the sun is seated at a height of 1 lakh yojanas. So this is exactly half of the thickness of Borloka. Borloka is spread to a height of 2 lakh yojanas. The half of that is 1 lakh yojanas. And this is how the division. And the dimensions of this enclosure are 3.6 yojanas divided by 0.9 million yojanas. So that is the dimensions of this, the body on which sun is situated, the enclosure. And this chariot is driven by 7 horses who are named after the 7 Vedic meters, such as Gayatri. And the names of the Vedic meters are Gayatri, Bruhati, Vushnik, Jagati, Trishtup, Anushtup, and Pankti. These are the 7 Vedic meters, and the same 7 names, there are 7 horses which are driving the chariot of sun god. And all these 7 horses are connected to a yoke whose length is 0.9 million yojanas. Sorry, whose width is 0.9 million yojanas. And Aruna is the chariot driver. Though driving the chariot, he always looks behind in order to have darshan of sun god continuously. And in front, standing in front of this chariot, there are 60,000 Valakilyas, and they continuously offer eloquent prayers for the glorification, nourishment, and enthusiasm of sun god. And the chariot of sun is continuously protected by these 7 category of people: Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, Sages, and Devatas. Gandharvas sing, Apsaras dance, Nagas tie up the chariot properly, the Yakshas protect it from behind, Rakshasas protect it from sides, the sages continuously chant the Vedic mantras for the happiness of sun god, and Devatas take the responsibility of looking after the activities of sun god, something like that. So like this, the sun god performs his function with the assistance of all the 7 category of people, and also 60,000 Valakilya sages who are standing in the front of the chariot and chanting Vedic mantras, Aruna driving the chariot, and the 7 horses are connected to the chariot. And Hanuman Chalisa talks about some interesting information about sun. wherein in one of the dohe he says that Tumharo mantra vibhishana mana Lankeshwara baya sabjaga jana Juga sahasra yojana parabanu lilyotai madura falajanu. Of course, various things are there. So we are interested in second line. Juga sahasra yojana parabanu lilyotai madura falajanu. Basically, in the first line, Tumharo mantra vibhishana mana. So Hanumanji is saying that, my dear Lord, Vibhishana continues chanting your mantra. Lankeshwara baya sabjaga jana. So having gone to Lanka, I have jumped across the ocean and gone to Lanka. I have caused fear among all the Lanka passes. Just like I have jumped to Lanka, in my childhood, I have also jumped to sun, who was located at a distance of Juga Sahasra Yojana, Lilyotai Madurafala Janu. Considering the early morning red crimson sun to be a wonderful fruit, thinking that let me eat it, I have jumped all the way up to sun, who is located at a distance of Juga Sahasra Yojana. So that's what he is saying. So Juga Sahasra Yojana means Yojana is Yojana, Sahasra is 1000, Juga in Sanskrit, Yuga means one Chatur Yuga. Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali, all four put together is called one Yuga. And the time period of all these four yugas in terms of the Devatas, it is 12,000 Devata years. So 12,000 Devata years referring to Juga and Sahasra into 1000, it becomes 12 million yojanas. So this is the distance, the point from where Hanumanji jumped, that is Hampi, to the point where he wanted to land it, that is sun. The distance between Hampi, that is Bharatakanda, to sun, who is seated in this chariot, is 12 million yojanas. So if you see, 15.75 million yojanas is from the center of Mount Meru to the chariot wheel or to the Manasutra mountain. That is 15.75. But sun's chariot is located a little bit inside and sun is seated in the middle. And distance between sun to the Bharatakanda is 12 million yojanas. So 12 million yojanas is equal to 12 into 8. 1 yojana is equal to 8 miles. That becomes 96 million miles. And 1 mile is equal to 1.6 kilometers. 96 into 1.6. It is 153.6 million kilometers. According to modern observations, the distance between sun and earth, it is 150 million kilometers. That is called as one astronomical unit. And here our Tulsidas is using, is talking it in terms of a closest round figure. So of course, 150 million kilometers only, but in Sanskrit, in order to tell 150 million kilometers, it takes long explanation. So they simply use the closest round figure in the Sanskrit measurements. So Juga Sahasra Yojana is very simple, and 153 and 150 are very close to each other. So in that way, even 15th century also, the people who talk in general terms, what is the distance of sun and earth, distance between sun and earth. So it's like that. Brahma Samhita, we hear about sun. Basically, being situated in this chariot, which is located at a distance of 12 million yojanas from our earth, the sun god continuously revolves around Mount Meru or Bharatakanda. So here you can see, Chakshuresha Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasa Suramurti Ashesha Teja Yes Yagnaya Brahmati Samburta Kala Chakro Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sun continuously travels in his chariot following after Kala Chakra. So sun is following after Kala Chakra and moving around Mount Meru or Polestar or Bharatakanda, and sun is said to be the Raja Sakala Grahanam, the king of all the planetary systems. So this is the position of sun. So here is the gigantic form of sun, Surya Narayana, seated in the chariot, driven by 7 horses, controlled by Aruna, etc. And when we have visited Sringeri, of course, in one of the previous sessions also I have shown one image about the entire Bhumandala, Mahameru Yantra. And they also have this sun's chariot, because the Shankarites, the followers of Shankaracharya, they are Panchopakas. During Brahmostav, they actually worship sun god. Among the 5 deities they worship, sun is also one. So this chariot was there in their temple in one of the corner. So here is one wheel of the chariot. This is the chariot body. Here the sun god. I'll show you one more picture. So this is the sun god. This is the chariot. Here is Aruna, and these are the 7 horses. So these are the 7 horses. So during Brahmotsav, the same chariot is taken out and decorated nicely and worshipped and taken on palanquin for the vision of all the visitors, all the pilgrims. So this is all about the sun god who is traveling in his chariot around Mount Meru every day, continuously, by the rod of Supreme Lord, following after Kalachakra. And then Bhagavatam goes to describe about moon. The moon is situated 1 lakh yojanas above the rays of sun. Arka Gavastibya Uparistal Laksha Yojanata Upalabhyamano. Whatever sun rays that are coming to our Bharatakanda, in reference to that, the moon is located at a height of 1 lakh yojanas. So here is the moon, whose orbit is located very close to our Bharatakanda and located little above the rays of the sun which are coming towards Bharatakanda. And this is one of the point which Prabhupada says that sun is closer than the moon. It is not that point to point distance. With respect to point distance, moon is very close to earth. From earth to moon is very close. But as you go upward, because from chapter 21 onwards, Bhagavatam is talking about the vertical distance of the universe. As you go upward, from the Bhumandala first comes sun and then comes moon. That's why the sun is first, then the moon. So it is like that. In that way, we have to see this. So some details in relation to sun and moon from Bhagavad Gita. Yadaditya gatam tejo jagat bhashayate akilam yat chandrama sechagno tat tejo viddimamakam. So Lord Krishna is saying in the 15th chapter that know that the light of the sun, moon and fire, Aditya and Chandra and Agni, which illuminate this universe, jagat bhashayate akilam, is my light, or they are my vibhutis. The sunlight, moonlight and the fire of the Agni, they are all my vibhutis. Gam avishesha bhutani daryami ahamojasa pushnami aushaushati sarve somo bhutva prasatmaka. So here Lord says that entering the earth, here Gam means the entire Bhumandala. Entering the Bhumandala by my own Shakti and being situated there, I maintain the moving and non-moving entities who are situated above the Bhumandala. So it is by the presence of the Supreme Lord in the Bhumandala, all of us, the moving and non-moving entities, have a steady place to reside and also to enjoy. It is only by Lord's presence. And then, Pushnami Shaushati Sarve Soma Bhutva Rasatmaka. Becoming the sweet juiced moon, I cause plants such as rice to increase and grow and to provide nice foodstuffs with juice. All the food grains, vegetables, fruits and flowers, all these things are nourished and become very tasty only by moon. Somo Bhutva Rasatmaka. So the moon itself is made up of sweet juiced moon. Soma Rasatmaka. So it is like that. So having seen that, so there is some quotes taken from Rigveda. Stephen Knapp had kind of taking references from Rigveda. He had mentioned some points in one of his article. So based on those points, now here we have a table which shows the interrelation between sun, moon and earth. So here the diameter of the earth or Bharatakanda, we have seen in the previous classes, that is 1000 yojanas. And according to Rigveda, it says that the diameter of the sun is 108 times to the diameter of the earth. So earth diameter is 1000 into 108. It is 1 lakh 108,000 yojanas is the diameter of the sun. And the distance between sun and earth is 108 times to the diameter of the sun. So 108,000 into 108, that becomes 11.664 million yojanas. So according to Ramcharit Manas or Sri Tulasidas, Juga Sahasra Yojana is the distance between earth and sun. So he has presented the closest round figure, that is 12 million yojanas. When we multiply that with 13 kilometers, etc., it comes around 12. What is that?
153.
153 million kilometers. But our actual distance is 150 million kilometers. So this is actual distance. 11.664 into 8 into 6.9, whatever it is, 1.609. That exactly comes to 150 million kilometers. So 11.664 is the actual distance between sun and earth. It is like that. And then the angle made by the sun disk early in the morning when we see towards the sun in the eastern direction. So this is the size of the sun disk. So to the center of our eye, when you draw a line to the upper part of the sun, to the bottom part of the sun. So whatever this, the sun disk angle, whatever angle it is making, that angle is 1 by 108 radians, which is equal to 0.5305 degrees. So it is like that. The same way, when we see for the moon, the diameter of the moon is 108 by 400 times to the diameter of the earth. So basically it's supposed to be 1 by 4 times to the diameter of the earth. That becomes 250. But we need to have a relation with 108. So it becomes 108 by 400. Instead of 1 by 4, 108 by 400. So that becomes 270. The diameter of the moon is 270 yojanas. And the distance between moon and earth, it is 108 times to the diameter of the moon. That is 270 into 108. That becomes 29,160 yojanas. This is the distance between earth and moon. And the distance between earth and sun is 11.664 million yojanas. Just like the angle of sun can be measured, can be calculated as 1 by 108 radians. Similarly, the angle of the moon is 1 by 108 radians. That is 0.5305 degrees. These are from Vedic calculations. The same things when you see from the modern observations, the earth diameter, according to modern observations, is 12,756 kilometers. And the modern observation says that the diameter of the sun is 1.39 million kilometers. And when we divide this with this, we get a ratio of 109. The closest round figure is 109. So this is very close to 108. And then the distance between sun and earth is 150 million kilometers. And when we divide this with this, we get ratio is 108. So which is according to Rigveda the same. And the angle of sun disk varies from 0.52 to 0.54. Because during summer it comes little closer, during winter it goes little farther. That time angle varies. During summer it is more and during winter it is less. But the mean value is 0.53, which is also matching with the Rigveda. And then the moon diameter, according to modern observations, 3,476 kilometers. And the ratio between this and this comes to 109 by 400. Our Rigveda number is 108 by 400. And the distance between moon and earth, it is 384,400 kilometers. Dividing this with this, we get 110 times. Of course, here 108 is there, 110. Little bit variation here and there, it's okay. So when they have measured this measurement, we don't know that time moon is made a little farther, so we get a little more number. So in that way. And the angle of the moon varies from 0.49 to 0.55. The mean value is 0.52, which is also very close to 0.53. So this is how the Rigveda gives very, very, very close approximate numbers for the diameter of the earth, sun, moon, distance between the earth and sun, earth and moon. And we don't have to worry about remembering so many numbers. Anyway, we know the diameter of the earth. And if you know 108, everything will come. But in the case of modern science, you have to remember all these numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 numbers you have to remember. When it comes to Vedic maths, only 2 numbers.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, here in this chart, we say the sun and the earth distance is 150,000 million kilometers, and the moon to earth distance is 384,400. So is this the vertical distance or the horizontal distance which is mentioned between sun and earth?
Forget about vertical horizontal. It is point to point distance.
Point to point distance.
But the straight line drawn between earth and sun and earth and moon.
Okay. So the between earth and moon, it is going to be the vertical distance.
No, Prabhuji, it is point to point distance.
Can you explain that, Prabhuji? I'm not able to clearly understand that.
From the surface of the earth
to
the surface of the sun.
Okay.
From the surface of the earth to the surface of the moon.
Oh, okay. To the surface.
Point to point distance. Or you can also take center to center. Center of earth here to yes, Prabhu.
But this point to point distance will vary, na?
Why they will
because
vary?
Because it is revolving. Because it is revolving. The sun and moon is rotating.
Rotating.
So then the distance will not remain same, na?
Why it will not remain same, Prabhuji?
Because see, when for the moon, particularly for the moon case, when it is rotating and coming to this point, so the distance. So whether the moon is rotating and with respect to the Bharata Khanda exactly at the center.
Yeah, good point you raised. We will discuss about that. Wait. If you remember Jambudipa, what was the diameter of Jambudipa? What was the width of Jambudipa, entire Jambudipa? Hare Krishna, anyone?
Is it 100 yojanas?
100 yojanas? Jambudipa?
100.
No.
Hare Krishna, none of you are doing homework, it seems.
No.
Prabhuji, it is much more farther than 100 million yojanas, Prabhu. 100,000 yojanas.
It is 100,000 yojanas only. 1 lakh yojanas.
1 lakh
of
yojanas.
The Jambudipa. So at the center of Jambudipa is Mount Meru. On the border is Bharatkhanda. The distance between Mount Meru to Bharatkhanda is around 50,000 yojanas. Okay, the radius is 50,000 yojanas. So now here, the distance between moon and earth, it is 29,000 yojanas. We can take the close round figure is 30,000 yojanas. So if our daily observation is that the moon is revolving around Bharatkhanda, our earth globe. So if moon is revolving around Mount Meru, so we Indians will never be able to see the moon. So I have a figure about it. Later on I'll show. Here you see, if the moon is going around like this, and the distance between Meru to Bharatkhanda is 50,000 yojanas, and the radius of the orbit is only 30,000 yojanas. If the moon is moving around Mount Meru, so only the Americans will be able to see the moon. The Indians will never see the moon. Instead, the center point of the orbit of the moon is around Bharatkhanda. That I will show you later on. In one slide is there. Since you asked the question, I'm showing that all the planets actually move around not Mount Meru, but a line drawn between Earth globe to the pole star. A line connecting between Earth globe and pole star. They are moving around that line. So I'll have a drawing for that. I'll show you little later. So thank you for raising that. So this is about this table. So, okay, the exact dimensions are can be seen from the references taken from Rigveda. So it is very simple and very easy to remember. And now, what is the moon actually? Is it a satellite or star? Is it an abandoned place, as the modern scientists say? How does it look like, etc., etc.? Because previously we have seen about our Bharatkhanda. How does it look like based on Mahabharata? So now let us see about the moon. So Bhagavatam gives a verse. describing details about the moon. With its waxing and waning phases, the moon creates, during its waxing phase, during the Shukla Paksha, it creates day for the Devatas and the night for the Pitrus, and which is suitable for worshipping the Devatas. Shukla Paksha is suitable for worshipping the Devatas. And during the waning phase or Krishna Paksha, the moon creates day for the Pitrus, night for the Devatas. And this is suitable for Pitrus. The Pitrus are generally worshipped during Krishna Paksha. And generally within a year, one Krishna Paksha that comes in the month of Bhadrapada is considered to be very auspicious for worshipping the Pitrus, and it is called as the Pitru Paksha, during which the Shraddha rites are performed for the deceased forefathers. And at other place, there is a description of Pitrus. Who are Pitrus? Pitrus are those who drink hot vapor of food. Ushma Bhagahi Pitara. Pitrus eat the steam. Ushmapa means the eaters of the steam. This is from Taittiriya Brahmana, Yajurveda 1.3.10.6. So this reference comes in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where the description of universal form is there. There it comes. Ushma Bhagahi Pitara. So Swagobi Pitur Devebhyo Vibhajan Krishna Shuklayo Prajanam Sarvasham Raja Nabha Somo Na Astuyati. So this was the prayer offered by the residents of one of the 6-7 islands of Bhumandala. So they were actually offering prayers to the moon god. The inhabitants of Almala they say that, may the moon, the king of all the citizens and all of us, who divides the food for the Pitrus and Devatas according to the waning and waxing phases, by his rays, be favorable to us. During waning phase, he creates day for the Pitrus and provides them food. And during waxing phase, he creates day for the Devatas and provides them food. So that's how we can understand. So it's like that. So currently we are referring to the verse number 9 of the 22nd chapter. Ata chapurya mana bischa kalabir amaranam, matlab Devatas, kshiya mana bischa kalabis pitrunam aho ratrani. For the Devatas and for the Pitrus, he creates day and night. Purva Paksha Para Paksha Bhyam Vitanvata. So with Krishna Paksha and Shukla Paksha, he creates day and night for the Devatas and Pitrus. So here we can see, this is our earth globe, our Bharatakanda. As you see from the top, this is North Pole, and here is India, and here is the sun situated far distant. And here is moon. This is the moon's orbit, as you see from the top. And moon revolves around earth like this. He completes one complete revolution around earth in 1 month. So this is the orbit of the moon. So within 1 month, so in the moon, there are 2 divisions. They are indicated with 2 different colors. In one division, the Devatas are residing. In the other division, the Pitrus are residing. The Pitrus are residing in this portion of the moon, and the Devatas are residing in this portion of the moon. So during a month, within a tenure of 1 month, if the moon is traveling gradually like this, going around like this, when sun is here. So as the moon starts from here all the way up to here. So this portion of the moon is bright always. So that portion of the moon which is toward the sun is always bright, which is on the other side is always dark. So thus, during Shukla Paksha, the Devatas are experiencing daytime. Like that, it is mentioned. And then during Krishna Paksha, from here to here, when the moon is in between sun and earth, that is called Amavasya, that is new moon day. When the moon is on the other side of the earth, exactly opposite of sun, that is called full moon day or Paurnami. Amavasya to Paurnami, it is called Shukla Paksha, and Paurnami to Amavasya, it is called Krishna Paksha. During Shukla Paksha, the Devatas experience daytime. During Krishna Paksha, the Pitrus experience daytime. So that is what is indicated. So this is the complete movement of the moon around earth. So this is like front view. As you see from the front, or isometric projection, it appears like this. So how exactly the day and night is happening on the moon, we will discuss a little later, maybe in the next week as time permits. And then for now, just focus on what is moon is all about. What moon is all about? Basically, moon is having two parts. In one side, the Pitrus are residing. In the other side, the Devatas are residing. That is most important for us to understand. So these are one category of Devatas who are residing on the moon in the inner portion of the moon. The Pitrus are residing in the upper portion of the moon. In the Vedic literature, anywhere it says that Pitruloka, that is actually referring to the moon. This half of the moon is known as Pitruloka. So when it is said that the ancestors have gone to Pitruloka, that means they have gone to moon. So that is the understanding. Now we are going to discuss about one important aspect of the moon in relation to sun and earth. So if this is clear, we really understand what moon is all about. The sun is made up of condensed fire elements. Condensed fire element. You understand the condensed fire element? That is the solidified fire. The fire is kept at one place. Is that clear? Anyone has any argument about it? Is sun is made up of condensed fire or not?
Yes, Prabhuji, understood.
And then the earth is made up of condensed earth element. Of course, on the surface there is some water, but the entire earth globe and eventually the entire Bharatavarsha, Jambudvipa and the entire Bhumandala is made up of condensed earth element. Agree?
Yes, Prabhu.
So just like sun is condensed fire, the earth is condensed earth, the moon is condensed, made up of condensed water element. The moon planet, Chandragraha, is made up of condensed water element, that is, it is basically an icy planet. It is not fiery like sun, it is not solid like earth, instead it is ice. The entire moon is made up of ice, and this is mentioned in the Vayu Purana. And now, seeing this reference, you see, here the moon is revolving around earth only, because the distance between the earth and moon is only 30,000 yojanas. But the distance between earth and Mount Meru is about 50,000 yojanas. That is too far. If the moon is moving around Mount Meru, it cannot be visible to the all places of the earth. So it is actually moving around earth only. And that is substantiated by a drawing drawn by Sri Thiruvenkata Ramanujiyar. If you remember, in one of the previous classes, we have seen the video also. The Thiruvenkata Jiyar has drawn the image of the entire universe. So here we have entire Jambudvipa, within which this is Mount Meru, and these are the 9 Varshas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like this. And here it is Bharatavarsha. Within Bharatavarsha, we have Earth globe also. And here we have sun. And here is the pole star. This is the pole star. And there is a line drawn between pole star to the center of the Earth globe. And this line is like the central point for the orbits of all the planets. For example, sun. So this is the bottommost point of sun. So for which the orbit is like this. From here to here, the orbit goes like this. And this is the middle point of the sun. This is like Makar Sankranti. We can see this is like April. In the April, the sun's orbit is like this. And in in the October, the sun's orbit is like this. During April, you see, sun's orbit is exactly passing through the center of the earth. And in the January, the sun's orbit is below the earth, that is towards the south pole. And during April or May, the sun's orbit, during exactly, and when it is July, June, July, the sun's orbit is on the topmost point in the northern hemisphere, etc. Above the northern hemisphere. So like that, you see, these 3 orbits are exactly perpendicular to the line drawn connecting Bharatkhanda and pole star. So this is how the orbits are located. In fact, though we are discussing that the axle, which is connected to sun's chariot wheel to the Mount Meru, but the orbit is actually around the line drawn between pole star and earth. It is like that. And
what an amazing design, Prabhu. Wonderful. Great.
And here you can see other islands. This is Lavana Samudra, Plakshadvipa, and Ikshu Samudra, Salmali Dvipa, and like that. All other details are also mentioned in this picture. So if you remember, here we have said that half of the moon is occupied by the Devatas, other half is occupied by the Pitrus. And who are these Pitrus? Who are these Devatas? Some references from Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 20, verse number 42. This chapter talks about the creation of different variety of Devatas. So there it says that, then Lord Brahma, thinking himself powerful, created Sadhyas, and then by his invincibility, he created Pitrus. The wise people offer Havya to Sadhyas and Kavya to Pitrus with faith. So the Devatas who are living on the moon, on the inner portion, are Sadhyas. The outer portion, the Pitrus are living. The Satyas and Pitrus are the same category, but Satyas are called as Devatas and Pitrus are called as Pitrus, and Pitrus are residing on the outer portion of the moon, Satyas are residing on the inner portion of the moon. And then there are 4 categories of Pitrus according to 4163. It says that Agnishvattas, Barishadas, Saumyas and Ajyapas are the 4 categories of Pitrus. Some of the Pitrus receive fire sacrifice, that means they receive oblation in the fire sacrifice, and others do not. And all these 4 categories of Pitrus married Swada, the 15th daughter of Daksha. Daksha had 16 daughters. The 16 daughters were given to different people in marriage. The 15th daughter, known as Swada, was given in marriage to the 4 Pitrus. We always hear about Draupadi marrying the 4 Pandavas. Here is another example of Swada marrying 4 Pitrus. These are the 4 original beginners of the Pitrus. So now, where do they stay? The Saumyas, here is the Saumyas, they reside in Chandraloka and they continue to drink Somarasa. They are the presiding deities of the seasons. The Saumyas take care of the responsibility of seasons coming and going. That is their service. And the Barishadas, who reside in Yamaloka, they rule over the months. We have Chaitra, Vaishaka, Jyeshta, Ashad, etc. The presiding deities of those months are Barishadas. There is one Pitruloka in the moon planet, that is the main Pitruloka. There is one subsidiary Pitruloka, which is there in Yamaloka. When we go to chapter 26, we'll discuss about that. What kind of Pitruloka is that? More details will come there. But Barishadas will reside in Yamaloka and they rule over the months. And Agnishvattas, who also reside in Yamaloka, they rule over the seasons. They are also the deities of seasons. And the 4th category, Kavyas or Ajyapas, they reside in moon. They rule over the year. So like that, out of the 4 people, Saumyas and Ajyapas reside in moon, Barishadas and Agnishvattas reside in the Pitruloka, which is there in Yamaloka. So these are the different types of Pitrus and also the Sadhyas who are residing on the moon. So now, having seen the nature of the moon, the people who are residing on the moon and other details, now let us discuss about the moon landing, the perspective of the scientific understanding as well as the Vedic understanding. The moon landing from the scientific perspective. So as we read in the web, we understand these details from the media. The first human-made object that are landed on the moon is by Soviet Union's Luna 2 mission. According to them, it landed on the moon on 13 September 1959. And then first manned mission is sent by United States or NASA. And they say Apollo 11 landed on the moon on 20th July 1969 at 2018 UTC. This is according to their time scale. At this particular time stamp, it landed on the moon. And the first 2 humans stepped on the moon were Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. Buzz Aldrin was the pilot of the module. And then starting from 1969, after the first man landing till all the way up to 72, there have been 6 more manned US landings and numerous unmanned landings. NASA has sent 6 more times other humans and unlimited times the land rovers like our Chandrayaan-2 has sent. And then from 76 all the way up to 2013, they have tried so many different ways, but there was no soft landing at all. Every time, whenever they tried, it failed. And then ISRO in 2008 had sent Chandrayaan-1 with remote sensing mechanism in order to capture the moon, what is there on the surface of the moon. It is basically a satellite sent on the orbit of the moon. Following after moon, it is supposed to capture the images of the moon. Of course, they have become successful to capture the images. In the recent year, 2019, Chandrayaan-2 has been sent. It is supposed to land on the moon on 7/9/19. So, but it did not land. Sorry, actually, it started on 9th. It is supposed to land on 22nd, but a day before, the communication was lost and no one knows where it has gone. And then other side, China also tried multiple times. In 2009, they have sent Chang'e 1. In 2013, they have sent Chang'e 3. In between, they have sent Chang'e 2, but that failed. But both these times, they have sent a remote sensing probe in order to capture the images of the moon. And both the times they became successful. They captured the images of the moon. So this is some of the information about various countries about their expedition upon the moon. So there could be many more, but I just put few details on the chart here. So this is from NASA. According to their first expedition, the first man landed on the moon is Neil Armstrong. Having landed there, having came out of this module, Eagle. So he came out and he put their national flag, and then he's saluting their national flag, and then he's returning. He's again boarding his module and coming back. But as we have mentioned previously, the Vayu Purana says that Gana Toyatmakam Tatra Mandalam Shishina Smrutam Gana Tejo Mayam Shukla Mandalam Bhaskaraste. Bhaskara means sun. Sun is made up of Gana Tejo Mayam, the solidified fire. Similarly, Shashina, the moon, is made up of Gana Toyatmakam. Toya means water. Gana means solidified water. So it is supposed to be a icy planet. And kindly see the images of the moon as they are published by NASA. According to our Puranas, moon is supposed to be a icy planet. And this is the understanding of moon from modern science. So what is the perspective of the Vedic literatures? So one reference from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, the conversation between Indra and Bali while they are fighting with each other. At one point of time, Indra says that, I send ignorant thieves who want to ascend to Svarga or beyond and want to control Maharloka by creating illusions to planets lower than their previous residence. If somebody wanted to go upward towards moon, Svargaloka or Maharloka, etc., without proper qualification, Indra says that I will create illusions. By those illusions, I will send them to the lower position than their current position. So an apt example for this is Trishanku, about whom 9th Canto talks. So Trishanku's story is, all of us might have heard sometime. So by the influence of Vishwamitra, Trishanku was sent to Swarga in the self-same body. But because of the prowess of the Devatas, he fell downward. Without having proper qualification himself, he wanted to go to Swarga. He requested Vishwamitra, and Vishwamitra, by the mystic potency, he sent Trishanku to Swarga. But when he was about to enter into Swarga, they understood that somebody without qualification trying to enter into Swargaloka. Then Indra pushed him downward. As he was coming downward, he prayed for Vishwamitra's mercy that time. But by the power of Vishwamitra, he did not fall all the way down to earth. But Vishwamitra created a what you can virtual Swarga, a Krutrima Swarga, an artificial Swarga, for the sake of this Trishanku. Even today, Trishanku can be seen hanging in the sky, head downward. That is called as Trishanku Swarga. A person without proper qualification cannot go to Swarga or any other upper planetary systems for that matter. But a person with proper qualification can go there self-same body and come back. Examples are Arjuna went in the self-same body to Amaravati, learned all the education from Indra and others, and came back. Yudhishthira Maharaj was taken by Indra personally at the end of Mahabharata, a Mahabharata book, in the last Swargarohana Parva. He went to Swarga in the self-same body. And King Revata, he went all the way up to Brahmaloka in order to find a suitable wife, suitable husband for his daughter, Revati. So he is such a person. And Nahusha, he not only went to heaven, he became Indra when Indra was away from Sarga. So such kind of. When person is qualified, can go to heaven in the self-same body and can come back. But if person is not qualified like Trishanku, he cannot go to Swarga or upper planets. So this is Trishanku. Trishanku Swarga, which is in between. So Vishwamitra is trying to send him up, and Indra is trying to send him down. So he stayed in the middle only because of Vishwamitra. Even today also this Trishanku Swarga can be seen like that, scholars say. So it is like that. This is about the modern perspective and the Vedic perspective of the moon, the abode of the moon, the abode of the Pitrus and Devatas. Any questions till now?
Prabhuji, I could not pick up some slides in the very beginning when you introduced about the sun. Would it be possible that we go through that?
No, Prabhuji, not now.
Okay.
It's long back. Any queries from any devotee? Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have heard that moon is farther away from sun. So is it true, Prabhuji?
We discussed now, moon is above the sun.
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji. So, like, how to agree that this Neil Armstrong and the others who like apparently went on the moon? So, like, it's a very hard to believe.
I don't know you. I have presented according to my understanding. I have presented what we scriptures are saying, what Puranas are saying.
Yes, Prabhuji. But even in Prabhupada, in one of his lectures, is told they must have not gone on the moon. They must have gone to some place in Alaska and returned back.
So see, here I am not to comment on either scientists or nor Prabhupada or anybody. I am just presenting it in a neutral perspective.
Yeah, no, Prabhuji, I'm asking your opinion only. So, like, how?
So that's what my opinion I have
believe-
presented. My opinion I have presented through all these slides.
Yeah, Prabhuji, that I understand.
Whatever is my opinion, I am presenting it here. So I have stated,
True.
if you remember, so this is my opinion. The sun is made up of fire, the earth is made up of earth element, the moon is made up of water element. So moon is a icy planet. This is what Vayu Purana says, and I believe that I agree to it. And
Yes.
in the moon, the Pitrus are residing and the Devatas are residing.
Hmm.
And then I have said, with the permission of Indra, Arjuna went to Swarga.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So with the permission of the Pitrus, anyone can go to moon. Before going to moon, anybody
Okay.
taking permission of the Pitrus?
No.
Simple question I'll ask you. You are sitting in your home with closed doors. Can somebody barge into your home without your permission?
No. No, Prabhuji.
Simple, quite simple. Bas, itna hi.
Yeah. Okay, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Little louder, Prabhuji.
Yes. Hare Krishna. I just want to understand one thing. You said that Pitrus stays outside the periphery of the sun, moon, and Devatas stay inside core of the moon. So, but in the picture that you have shown, you have shown in the, it is 50% Pitrus and like that. But how, I'm not. It is a circular. Sun is moon.
It's simple, Prabhuji. The moon is like this. In the this side portion of the moon, the Pitrus are residing. This side portion of the moon, the Devatas are residing. For example, Earth globe is here. This side portion of the Earth we have Asia and Africa, Europe, etc. This side portion of the Earth we have America, North America, South America.
Okay. Okay. So that means it is like a one side. One side and
side.
other side.
One
Not
side,
like
one
that,
side.
one outside periphery or inside core line. Not like that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, one side. Okay, I understood. Thank you.
See, outside means with respect to Earth on the other side of the moon. And inside of the moon means which is toward the Earth.
Okay, okay, okay.
This
In that
portion of the
sense,
moon is toward the Earth. This portion of the moon is away from the Earth. That is outside of the Earth. Earth
okay,
vision.
okay.
Yeah, it's like
Okay,
that.
okay. Got it.
The residence is on the surface.
Ah.
Hare Krishna,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, this Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha, just to, I mean, I'm trying to understand. In this picture that you are actually showing now, on the upper portion towards the Shukla Paksha, we have the American islands, nation, and the below we have the Asians. So is it going to be always like this, or it's going to change also?
No. See, we have not yet started the movements of the planets. So then you will understand clearly. This is only a rough picture. It is not exact details. These are only indicative for us to understand the phenomenon how it happens.
Okay.
So don't see America and etc. Just see when moon is in between Earth and Sun.
Yeah.
That is Amavasya.
Yeah.
When the moon is other side of the Earth, that is Paurnami.
Yeah.
Amavasya to Paurnami, it is called Shukla Paksha.
Yeah.
Paurnami to Amavasya, it is called Krishna Paksha.
Yeah.
So Earth can be anyway. Either you can move a little bit around here, there, everywhere.
Prabhuji, one more question. This part of the pictures that you are actually showing, wherever there is the white bright surface, where the sunlight is actually falling on the moon in those 4 different positions.
Yes.
So practically to say, the sun's rays are falling on the icy surface of the moon, and that is why it becomes illuminated. Is that what we should understand?
Yes. Just like when sunlight falls on the earth, that portion of the earth becomes bright.
Yes.
Same way, the half portion of the moon which is toward the sun becomes always bright. The other side it will be dark.
Okay. Now my question is, like when we see the full moon day means, right, on this picture now, what we see here, there is sun, there is earth, and there is moon. So the sun rays is falling on the moon, and thereby the earth people are able to see this part which is bright. Is that how it should be understood?
Yes. The people who are residing in this place, during the night time, they see the full moon.
Okay.
On the day of Amavasya, the people residing here on the surface of the earth, the sun rays are falling this portion of the moon. And this portion of the moon only seen by the people here. Anyway, this is dark. So we say it as no moon day. There is no moon visible on that Amavasya day. So it is like that.
Okay. So when the moon does the orbiting, so when it is moving away from the axis of the earth and the sun, of course, sun is also moving, and the moon is also moving.
Prabhuji, please don't ask any question related to the motion.
Okay, fine. Understood.
It's only about the nature of the moon.
Understood.
What is moon, not the motion.
Okay.
If you have any doubts in relation to the moon, you ask.
No, this is fine. Understood.
Okay, we'll move on.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhu, this moon is only for this Bharata Kanta. It moves around only Bharata Kanta. It is not. It is between that Meru mountain and this Bharata Kanta. It is moving, right?
No, it is moving around Bharata Kanta only. That's why I have shown the picture.
Okay.
Not only moon, but all the grahas are moving around the line drawn between Bharata Kanta to pole star. Around this line only they are moving, wherever they may be. Okay. Here I have shown 3 orbits are there. This is the orbit of the sun in the month of July. This is the orbit of the sun in the month of April, which is passing through exactly the line of equator. And this is the orbit of the sun in the month of January, Makara Sankranti. So these 3 orbital lines are perpendicular to the line drawn between Earth as well as the pole star. Similarly, the moon also moves like this only, around Bhartakanda only. Because the
Okay.
distance between center of Mount Meru to center of Earth is 50,000 yojanas. The orbit of the moon is only 30,000 yojanas. If the moon is moving around like this, so the people who are residing here on the Bhartakanda, that is Indians, they will never see the moon.
Yeah.
So the moon is always behind us, below us, otherwise. But actually, moon is moving around like this, around Earth with 30,000 yojanas radius. That's why everyone on the surface of the moon or on the surface of the Earth will be able to see the moon at any different point of time.
So the salt water, that sea,
Mm.
after that will also have that high tide and low tide because of moon.
So we don't know, Prabhuji, effects and all, we don't know. We are not here to discuss about those effects.
Additional.
Just what is moon, we are trying to understand. We have also understood what is sun, who are staying there, etc. etc. So like that, we are understanding moon, who are staying there. Just like we have seen the different divisions of Bhumandala. What are the divisions, who are staying there, what kind of activity they are doing, whom they are worshipping, etc. etc. Same way we are seeing about moon here.
Additional.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, just one clarification. Sorry to disturb. So from just now, the picture that you were showing, from that it seems that Bharata Khanda is inclined towards that pole star.
Yes, inclined.
It is not like a straight way vertical. It is not the Earth axis. The Bharata Khanda axis wise, it is in line with the pole star.
But for your information, the inclination is only 0.15 degrees.
Sorry?
The inclination is only 0.15 degrees.
With respect to 0.15 degree with respect to
0.15 or 0.35 is very small angle. It is not a big inclination, I mean to say.
okay.
It is very
With
small,
respect to the
very
vertical,
small angle.
With respect to the vertical, true north.
Yes, with respect to the vertical.
Okay.
Of course, this is an indicative picture. It is shown very, very big. So for you, it seems that
From that it is yes, exactly.
this angle seems to be like 30 degrees, but in reality, it's actually some 0.35 degrees, much less than half degree.
Modern understanding, it is like a 66 degree or something like that. No? Modern science.
I don't. I am not talking about all those things. They are entirely different subject matter.
Okay. Thank you, bro.
Yes, bro. So just I wanted to show you one understanding through these pictures, that what do you see here on the surface of the moon in all these pictures?
We are seeing earth, dust.
But our Puranas say it is Ganato, it's supposed to be Ganatoyatmakam.
Icy surface.
It is supposed to be icy surface. So these are the various other details about the moon that are mentioned in the 22nd chapter. Sarva Jiva Nivaha Prano Jivas Chaikam Ekam Nakshatram Trimsha Murter Bhukte. So basically, the moon is the life of all beings, because Annam hi Prananam Prana. It is only by food all of us sustain. As Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Annat Bhavanti Bhutani Parjanyad Anna Sambhava. It is only by food all of us sustain. That food comes from the rains, etc. But by rains, the food grains grow from the plants. So who is helping the food grains to grow properly and give us the tasty foodstuffs?
Moon.
So he is the life of all the living entities. Moon produces food in the form of plants and Burloka, that means our Bhuloka, and moon gives nectar for the heavenly residents. The Burloka and Sargaloka Vasis, they get nectar from the moon. They all get to drink Somarasa from the moon. The moon is called Jiva because he is providing immortal nectar necessary for all in the universe in order to live continuously. Thus, he is considered to be the chief living entity in the universe. Because if moon is not there, no one can live. If moon is not there, can we get vegetables?
No, Prabhu.
Without vegetables and fruit grains, can we live?
No.
And moon is giving Somarasa to Devatas. Without Somarasa, can they live?
No.
Yeah. Pitrus are those who drink the hot vapor of food. Ushma Bhaga hi Pitara. Pitrus eat the steam. So there is actually a nice story mentioned in, do you have that? Okay, that I don't have. I'll narrate the story. There is a nice story in the Vayu Purana. It says that starting from Amavasya, of course not Amavasya, the day after Amavasya, Pratipad, all the way up to Paurnami, the 15 days of Shukla Paksha, the sun evaporates water from different places of the Bhumandala. Of course, in relation to us, we can say from the surface of the earth, the sun evaporates water from the water bodies such as oceans, rivers, ponds, plants, even from the human body also water is evaporated. When there is hearty sun, when we travel when we walk on the roadside, we sweat a lot and the water is evaporated by sun. All the evaporated water directly goes to the moon. The moon takes away the essence of the evaporated water and transforms it into somaras. And that somaras is stored on the surface of the moon. It says that from new moon day, from the Pratipad Tithi, every day the moon starts accumulating nectar. To the extent the moon accumulates the nectar, that much portion of the moon is seen by us, like the white arc. From the first day after Amavasya, we see small arc, then the second day little bigger arc, third day little more bigger, little bigger, like that. Gradually, the size of the moon gradually increases. On the full moon day, Paurnami, the moon surface is completely occupied by nectar. So 15 days, the moon is extracting essence from the evaporated water and storing on the moon as somarasa. After converting it as somarasa, storing it on the moon. So, by the way, the remaining water comes down from the moon and stores in the clouds. And eventually those clouds rain down onto the surface of the earth once again. So that is the phenomenon of the raining. So now, after full moon day, after Paurnami, of course, on the day of Paurnami, the moon god invites all the devatas to come to the moon. So all the devatas assemble on the moon, and from the next day onward, they start drinking the nectar. As every day they start drinking the nectar, the amount of the moon which is visible to us starts reducing because the nectar is reducing. So on the new moon day, that is on the Amavasya, till noon, the devatas drink nectar. So by then they become completely satisfied. That means they have drunk for 14.5 days. And whatever nectar is still remaining on the surface of the moon is given for the Pitrus. So on the Amavasya day in the second half, the Pitrus drink the remaining nectar or remaining somarasa that is there on the surface of the moon. That's why the Pitrus are called Ushmabhaga Pihi Pitara. Pitrus eat steam. The steam is nothing but the evaporated water which has gone to moon. From that the essence is extracted, that is stored on the surface of the moon, which is called as transformed into somarasa, which is drunk by all the variety of devatas for 14.5 days. And the remaining somarasa is drunk by the Pitrus on the Amavasya second half. That's why generally whenever our descendants are passed, it is said that the Pitru rite should be performed in the second half of Amavasya, because that is the time for the Pitrus to eat. So something like that we can see. So this is about the story of the moon from Vayu Purana. And the moon composes of 16 phases. Pratipad to Chaturdashi, then Amavasya or Paurnami. Like that, the moon can be seen in 16 different phases within a month. Shodasha Kalam, it is called as Shodasha Kalam. And the moon is considered to be the Supreme Lord, is the present deity of the mind, is providing food for all the human beings and all the animals that are there in the Bhartakanda, and is providing nectar for the Devatas. That is called as the life of all living entities. Without food, no one can continue to live in this world. So thus is the life force of all the living entities. Thus, by providing food for everyone, he becomes all pervading. Since the moon is the cause of all life, the life of all living entities. And the moon covers each constellation 30 muhurtas one day. So this particular thing we will discuss maybe in the next week, time permits. So basically these are different details about the moon. What is moon? What does it do? What are his services, etc., etc. So any queries? So as you go upward, after the moon, there comes Svargaloka. From the surface of the Bhumandala, all the way up to the moon, the entire intermediate area is called as Bhurloka. And from moon all the way up to pole star, the remaining area is called as Svargaloka. The description of Svargaloka is given in 22nd chapter, starting from 11 to 17. So, above moon, the nakshatra situated at a height of 0.3 million yojanas. Nakshatras are constellations. We hear about these 27 nakshatras, Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini, etc. They are situated at a height of 3 lakh yojanas above the position of the moon. And they move in clockwise direction around Mount Meru or around Bharatkhanda, as we saw in the previous picture. And the wheel of time in the clockwise direction. So the time wheel is basically, it is nothing but the zodiac belt, the wheel made up of 12 zodiac signs or 12 rashis in our Indian language, so to say. The 12 rashis we have Mesha, Vrishaba, Kritika, etc. So all the 12 zodiac signs combined together is called as Kala Chakra, and along with that Kala Chakra, these 27 nakshatras also revolve. So they are 28 in number along with Abhijit Nakshatra. So sometimes Abhijit is visible, other times Abhijit is not visible. So whenever Abhijit becomes visible, it becomes visible in the middle of Ashada and Shravana Nakshatra. Ashada Nakshatra and Shravana Nakshatra. So this is about nakshatras. So for your information, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Daksha had 60 daughters. Out of 60 daughters, he had given in marriage 27 daughters in marriage to moon god. So these 27 nakshatras are the 27 residential quarters of the 27 daughters of Daksha, who eventually became the 27 wives of the moon. The nakshatra is actually called after the names of the 27 daughters of moon god. Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini, etc. These are all 27 daughters of the moon god. Sorry, 27 daughters of Daksha who became 27 wives of the moon god. So it is like that. Basically, the stars that we see, the nakshatras that we see in the night, they are the residential quarters of these 27 wives of the moon god. So now there is a little bit in understanding what they are. Whatever we see in the outer space can be divided into grahas, nakshatras, tarakas, etc. etc. So what are they? It's a small information. Nakshatra, the meaning of nakshatra is the stars that never fade. They are possessing of one ray. They continuously shine forth in the night time. The technical meaning of nakshatra is Naktrayate iti nakshatra, that which delivers us from the fear of darkness during night time are called nakshatras. Generally, on the normal days, during the daytime we have sunlight. In the night time we can get moonlight. On the normal days we get moonlight. On the Paurnami we have full moonlight. But on the Amavasya day, even though there is no moonlight, but we still get some brightness from the various stars that are there in the night in the sky. So all those, the glittering objects that we see in the night sky are generally called as nakshatra. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Nakshatranam aham shashi. Among all the objects that deliver us from the fear of darkness of night, I am moon. Because there are so many stars, twinkling stars are there. But the light of the moon is better than the light of the stars. So in the moonlight, we can actually clearly see the path and walk in the dead of the night. But in the light of the stars, we may not be able to. But still, the light of the stars also, some benefit is there with that. So, but the light of the moon is much, in comparison to all other stars, is much better. So Lord says that I am the moon among all the glittering objects in the night of the sky. So then, Riksha, they are group of stars known as Ashwini, Bharani, etc. etc. They are bigger in size like Buddha. Buddha is Mercury. So Mercury is one of the planets, one of the small planet, and these 27 nakshatras are basically the 27 rikshas. There are in Sanskrit, they're also called, they're actually called as riksha, but eventually in our daily usage, we call them this riksha as a nakshatra. Everything that we see in the night is called nakshatra, but among them, there are 27 star groups. They are very special. They are called as small bears. Riksha in Ramayana, Jambavan is called as Riksha Raja, the king among the bears. So these 27 nakshatra, these 27 star groups, they all appear to be like the bears, small bear. So that's why they are called with the name Riksha. But generally in our general observation or general knowledge, general speaking, when the astrologer speaks, the nakshatra means Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika. Though nakshatra is the entire family name of that is visible in the night time, but it is only being used instead of rikshas in our daily usage. Then the other category of stars known as Taraka. Taraka are the other small stars. To cross. The understanding is those who do good deeds cross this world and attain these places. In Bhagavad Gita, we read from 2nd chapter, in that verse section 31 to 38, Jitova prapesi swargam hatova, Jitova bokshase mahim hatova prapesi sargam. Whenever a warrior, whenever a kshatriya goes to battlefield and dies, as a result of dying in the battlefield, they will be ascended to Swarga. When they go to Swarga, they will be given a star for their residence. The stars are called Tara. Tara means to cross. They cross this Bhuloka and they ascend to heavenly abodes, and there they get to see, they get to stay in those stars. And the size of the stars varies from half yojana to 100 yojanas. So half yojana means 6.5 kilometers. That is the diameter of a star. So when a person, when a kshatriya dies in the battlefield, when he goes to Swarga, he will get to a place like a farm, entire farm. Within that there is a farmhouse, nice bungalow, which spread to a distance of 6.5 kilometers. That is the kind of place where he will have all the opulences, all the servants to serve him. Everything is there, everything, whatever he wants. That is the kind of opulences that are given to a person who goes to Swarga. And they get to stay in different tarakas, different stars. And they can vary from half yojana to 100 yojanas. And by the way, of course, at the end we'll discuss about that. And the other category of objects that we see in the night is grahas. The planets like sun, moon, etc. We have 9 grahas, as we said, the Navagrahas. The 7 grahas corresponding to the 7 days in a week, and then Rahu and Ketu. The total there are 9 grahas. So these are the 9 grahas. And then Lord Krishna says again in Bhagavad Gita, Jyotisham Ravi Ramshuman, of shining objects I am sun. Among all the shining objects both during the day and night, I am sun. Because the brightness of the moon of the night is much inferior to the brightness of the sun of the day. So among all the objects that shine during the night, I am the moon. Among all the objects that shine in general, I am sun. So it is like that. Other planets shine because of the rays of the sun, and because sun is the king of all the planets. So Raja Samasa Suramurti Rashesha Teja. So it's like that. So the moon and other planets, they all reflect sunlight. It is only sun which gives sunlight. Along with the nakshatras, rikshas, tarakas, they also have self-illuminating light. But the other grahas do not have self-illumination. They actually reflect sunlight. The comparison is, grahas are generally big in size. The nakshatras or rikshas or tarakas are small in size. And the nakshatras and tarakas are self-effulgent, and grahas reflect sunlight. That is the difference. And the tarakas are the residential places of the residents of Bhuvarloka and Sargaloka. Even if somebody goes to Sarga, a Kshatriya who dies in the battlefield can go to Sarga. A Kshatriya who lived a life of Dharmikata will go to Sarga. A Brahmana who lived a life of full of austerities will go to Swarga. A Vaishya who gave charities throughout his life will go to Swarga. A Shudra who did service well to all the people in general will also go to Swarga. When they go to Swarga, they will be given 1 star to reside. So that is the understanding of stars from the Vedic point of view. So from the modern point of view, the understanding of stars is entirely a different thing. So here are some of the pictures you can see. So here is the Big Dipper, the Saptarushi Mandal. There are 7 stars which are combined together, drawn, seen like a question mark. So that is called Saptarushi Mandal. The Saptarushis reside in the Saptarushi Mandal. And these are other different stars, different nakshatras, etc., etc. Here you can also see another images. Polars, Purusha Minor, Ursa Minor and Ursa Major. This is the Saptarushi Big Dipper. Saptarushi Mandal is also called as Big Dipper. So, etc. So these are the different names given by the modern man. So I don't know exactly what they are, but some images I am showing. So these are different nakshatras. So different star groups. They are like that. So this is the last slide for today. We'll stop here. So some examples. I have mentioned that different stars are the abodes of different devatas. So there are so many references in the Bhagavatam. I compiled some of them. To fulfill the desire of his dear wife, Devahuti, Kardama created an airplane filled with all facilities. So there is a huge description about this airplane in the third canto. Like that, we can imagine the stars which are given to the heavenly residents. Same way. King Chitraketu glorifying the Lord traveled. King Chitraketu glorifying the Lord traveled in outer space on a brilliant airplane for 1 lakh years within the valleys of Sumentu, so Mount Meru. Chitraketu, after worshipping Lord Sankarshana, he became king of Vidyadharas. He was given an airplane. In that airplane, he traveled for 1 lakh years. So he was also given one airplane, which he was Vidyadhara. He was one of the Vidyadhara at that time. Seeing the wives of the Upadevas mounted on their airplanes going to her father's sacrifice along with their husbands, Sati spoke to her husband. So Mother Sati saw that all the devatas were going to greater Himalayas where Daksha was performing yajna in their respective airplanes. So here the devatas were traveling in the airplanes, and then she spoke to Lord Shiva that we will also go. On that path, being praised and showered with flowers here and there by the devatas seated in their planes, in their airplanes, Dhruva saw many planets one after the other. When Dhruva was ascending to Vaikunta along with Nanda Upananda, he saw many devatas traveling in the different airplanes, showering flowers upon him on the way. Of those flying in airplanes, the person shining must be Archi. She is following Prutu. They saw Prutu in front and saw her following him in another vehicle. So all the devatas being switched in airplane, they saw King Prutu as well as Archi are also traveling another airplanes towards spiritual world. So basically the heavenly residents travel in airplanes. So these are different references to support that. So till now, in summary, we have seen the sun, the moon, the 27 constellations of the 27 nakshatras which are located just above moon at a distance of 3 lakh yojanas. Here 3 lakh yojanas. Here is 1 lakh yojanas and here is 1 lakh yojanas. So these are the few details that we have discussed today. And tomorrow we'll discuss, not tomorrow, in next class we'll discuss about other planetary systems, etc. So Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. We'll stop here for today.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Hope it is clear what is moon all about, what is the nakshatras are all about, etc. Because these are some of the important details. Generally, we mistake that we read in the textbooks that all the stars are also like another sun. So the modern man says that all the stars can also have another solar system, etc., etc. But according to the understanding of our Vedic literature, there is only one sun, there is only one moon, there is only one set of planets within our universe. And all the other stars that we see are nothing but the residential quarters of all the devatas, the heavenly residents. So that is the understanding. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for beautifully explaining. Prabhu, again, a common question. The influence of planets among the human beings, if we classify like devotees and non-devotees. So how much we should give importance for this astrology in our life as a devotee, as a non-devotee?
So my humble request, kindly approach a devotee astrologer. He can give you proper answer. I don't have any clue about this, Prabhuji. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thanks, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Will we have the class as usual day after tomorrow?
Yes. Is there any
No, because of Gita Jayanti or things like.
Gita Jayanti is tomorrow?
Okay, fine. For us in UAE, it's yeah. Okay, fine. Gita Jayanti is tomorrow. Yes,
Of
Prabhu.
course. All such things you can kindly coordinate with your.
Coordinators.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
As for me, schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks.
Yes, Prabhu.